questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Zion?
Actually, I just have one question. Sorry.
Counselor, you sat down.
Sorry, Judge. I
Make
know.
one, because every
Yes.
time you say one question, it's 5.
Sure.
All of the things that you told us about her death rattle, her suffering, for what she was going through that evening in the ICU, all the records in the world would never fully describe it, correct?
Correct.
I lied, Judge. I really just have 2 or 3 more.
Make it quick. We've got time considerations here.
I asked all of these, and you weren't even trained on how to chart in the ICU during a palliative extubation, were you?
No.
I have no further questions.
Okay. You sure?
Yes, sir.
I'm waiting for you to sit down before I bring Mr. Zion up. Mr. Zion, any redirect?
Yes, sir. Remember, defense counsel asking you, a decision had to be made by the family. Remember that question?
Yes.
When was she palliatively extubated?
Before my shift, so 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And is that when she would have been changed to do not resuscitate comfort care?
Yes.
And so at that point, before your shift, the decision had been made to just keep her comfortable throughout the dying process?
Correct.
So that decision had been made hours before.
Objection, Judge.
He just asked to sustain. You just asked her when it occurred. Are you transitioning?
Yes. That decision had been made
Okay.
hours before, right?
Correct.
What decision are you referring to now that needs to be made?
Just if they thought she was looking more uncomfortable and needed more pain medicine.
That's the big decision you're talking about?
Yes.
As part of your training and experience, you are aware, or are you aware, that you cannot,
Objection, leading.
I haven't heard the whole question. Go ahead.
are you aware that as part of your duties as a nurse, you cannot cause someone's death with excessive pain medication?
Objection.
Overruled.
Correct. Right. So what's the big decision the family needs to make here?
Objection. Counsel's characterization.
Overruled.
The issue is to receive more pain meds, that was what it was.
Okay, you made your point. Overruled.
State it again.
What's the big decision that needs to be made at 10 o'clock at night now?
Objection, Judge.
I've already ruled.
It's a big decision. This is strictly argument, not a...
I've ruled, counsel.
Just that if she needed more medication than what she was receiving, more pain medication.
And how much pain medication was she on up to this point?
10 milligrams of morphine,
And how much pain medication did Dr. Husel order?
1,000 micrograms of fentanyl.
Mr. Defense Counsel asked you, based on your training and experience, did the family have all the information in the decision up to that point? Remember that line?
Yes.
Your training and experience, how many shifts had you worked at this point?
6.
So the context of that
Maybe.
question is in the 6 prior times you had worked in the ICU.
Objection, Judge.
I'll permit it.
Correct in my training and orientation.
But you had no training in palliative care at that point, correct?
Correct.
And this isn't palliative extubation, this is actual palliative care, right?
Yes.
Because she should have been transferred to the palliative floor, right?
Correct.
Objection, Judge. Calls for speculation.
Sustained.
I move to strike.
What was the standard?
Ladies and gentlemen, disregard the question.
You said earlier that she was not transferred to the palliative floor.
Correct.
Is that different than how it should have normally been done?
Objection, Judge. Calls for speculation.
No, I'll let her.
From what was told to me at report, she would have been
Objection.
transferred out.
Speculation.
Okay, so you don't know for yourself?
No, because I was never trained on.
Did you review the note in the medical records that talked about that as part of your preparation today?
Objection. He's asking her at that time, and now he's asking her.
No, he's moved on, but that's okay. Did you review the notes?
There was an order to transfer her out.
After
That
how
was
many
reviewed
hours?
after 4 hours,
And why wasn't that done?
because a decision was made prior to my shift for the comfort of the family to keep them in the ICU.
So you've got this extubated patient still in the ICU, and she's being really loud?
Yes,
You can hear it down the hallway?
yes.
It's disturbing?
I mean, it's hard to hear.
Yeah. And she's not even really an ICU patient, is she?
Objection.
Sustained, asked and answered.
Is she on a ventilator at this point?
No,
Is she being treated with intensive care at this point?
no,
Is she getting palliative comfort care at this point?
yes,
Is she still on the ICU floor at this point?
yes,
And is she being very loud, and are the noises she's making hard to hear?
yes,
And a decision had to be made by the family, right?
correct.
That, you recall, the defense counsel characterizing that, that's the conversation Dr. Husel had. A decision had to be made by the family.
Objection, Judge.
Can you answer that?
Correct.
Okay. You testified earlier, Mr. Baez said that all the pain medication earlier had not alleviated her pain. Do you remember that?
I remember talking about those records, yes.
He said none of it was working. Remember that?
Yes,
As part of the medical records on this and part of your handoff care that night, do you recall seeing the pain assessment form from earlier in the shift?
Objection.
I think we're outside the cross, aren't we?
This was the question. He said none of the previous pain medication doses had worked. And she answered yes. And that was her knowledge, that none of it had worked.
Go ahead.
Do you remember reviewing?
Objection, Judge. These are not her records, and she testified she did not review those records.
Noted, overruled.
Do you remember reviewing the earlier pain assessments or during the handoff, talking to the person that had cared for her earlier in the day?
I don't know if we talked about the pain, like assessing her pain.
But this is you right here on 11/13 at 23:57, correct?
Correct.
And this is the previous nurse that was taking care of them, correct?
No,
What about up here?
not the nurse prior to my.
Okay, the two previous pain response form notes, though, by the nurses, those are those two previous notes there, right?
Yes,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's this one here,
Judge.
on 11/13 at 3:44.
Okay, hold on. You got an objection?
Yes. Those entries were before the extubation, Judge.
Okay, that's a matter of fact.
Did you talk to the nurse that handed her off to you?
Yes.
Do you remember him talking about 10 milligrams of morphine?
Her, yes.
For purposes of what happened during your course of treatment, did he tell you whether that was a high dose or not?
She had mentioned that
What
it
did
was a
she
high
say in
dose.
regards to that for purposes of your treatment of this patient?
Repeat it again.
What?
Objection.
Sustained as to the format of the question, rephrase.
For purposes of your treatment of Miss Castle, for purposes of the medical treatment of Miss Castle, what, if anything, did you learn about the 10 milligram dose of morphine that she had been receiving as needed after extubation?
That it was like a higher dose and that she had given her some.
Okay. The defense counsel said you didn't testify on direct about the family coming to you on bedside. Do you recall testifying on direct about talking to the family about her level of discomfort?
Yeah, I don't remember all the
Did you talk to the
questions.
family about her level of discomfort?
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
did you listen to what they had to say because they know her best?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Bias said, or asked you, they didn't want her to suffer anymore. Do you remember that question from the defense counsel?
Yes.
And so a decision needed to be made. Remember that
Objection,
question?
Judge.
Okay. Slow down. Rephrase.
Do you remember Mr. Baez asking you, in regards to your conversations with the family, they didn't want her to suffer anymore?
Objection, Judge. That wasn't my question.
Okay. Do you understand the question? Do you remember Mr. Bias talking about that issue?
Yes.
All right. And then asking you about a decision needed to be made.
Objection, Judge.
Do you remember him asking you that?
Yes.
Have you ever had Mr. Baez ask you about the vials? Remember the 3 vials? You put them up here. Remember that?
Yes.
You ever have a doctor ask you to give that much fentanyl to anybody besides Dr. Husel?
Objection.
Okay, sustained.
You said the decision that had to be made.
Objection, Judge. Again, this mischaracterization of my questions.
Okay. He hasn't got the question out yet. I don't know.
The decision that had to be made was to whether or not give her more pain medication.
Correct.
Asked and answered.
Okay.
And,
He's going with this somewhere. I'm waiting for him to get there.
thank you, Judge. And she had received 10 milligrams of morphine previous.
Okay, that's been asked and answered.
May I?
Well, I'm waiting for you to get to something that's appropriate.
And how much did he increase that pain medication to in his and after that decision had to be made with the family?
Objection.
Sustained.
How much did he increase that medication to?
Objection.
Sustained.
I have nothing further.
Anything on the pre-procedure pain scores?
Yes, Judge.
Is it your usual one question?
2 or 3?
Sorry, punching late in the day.
I want, Ms. LeChard, I want to ask you about a document that counsel had just shown you about the pre-medications. This is you at 7:18 p.m. on the 13th, correct?
Correct.
And then you were asked about 0344 on the 13th, correct?
Correct.
And that was earlier the day before? I'm sorry, the same date, but 3 in the morning, correct?
Correct.
And then the other time you were asked was 3 days earlier at 01 in the morning, almost 2 in the morning, correct?
Correct.
And the characterization of having 10 milligrams of morphine, that was...
No. Outside of your permission.
Okay. Were you aware of the prior medications that she received for pain, that she had received 6,000 micrograms of fentanyl in the 3 days that she was
Sustained,
a patient?
outside the scope.
I have no further questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, disregard the last question. Okay, ma'am, you may step down. Just hang tight for a second. I'm going to send them out for 10 minutes while we put up the screen and get everything situated. Okay? Figured you guys could use a leg stretch. I could. Okay? Remember the admonition? 10 minutes for us to get things set up. Just relax. You stand up while they go out.
Okay.
I'm the one who gets to sit. And I probably shouldn't, but I do. They know I'm respectful of them. I heard you guys got cheesecake today? Oy vey. Okay. Ma'am, you're excused. We just let them get out of here first. Let's get it set up. We'll get Paul over here.
She can leave, right?
Yeah, she can leave. I told her she was excused.
You're good, Ms. LeChard.
Anything for the record before we start the process? Anything for the record, Mr. Baez?
No, Judge.
Okay.
So whatever you think of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Ms. Grubb, call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time we call Dr. Charles May, who is appearing on Zoom.
Dr. May, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay? I need you to state your name for the record and spell it for my court reporter.
Okay. First name is Charles, middle name Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, last name May, M-A-Y.
Thank
You may
you.
proceed.
And Dr. May, are you a medical doctor?
I'm a doctor of osteopathic medicine.
Thank you. And when and where did you receive your training?
You talk about the medical school?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when I attended medical school, it was called the Kansas City College of Osteopathic Medicine. I believe now it's called Kansas City University of Medicine. I graduated in 1976.
Okay. And when did you become licensed to practice medicine in the state of Ohio?
1977.
Okay. And during these years, since then, have you been practicing medicine in Central Ohio?
I have, since the onset of pandemic, I have just been doing telemedicine visits occasionally.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, did you receive an email from me yesterday which included some medical records and a death certificate?
Yes, I did.
And is that death certificate bearing a registrar's number of 20180000694?
Well, if you give me a second, okay.
Sorry.
I didn't know where it was. Okay. Yes, I see it.
Okay, and is this a death certificate for Frances Marlene Burke?
That is correct.
And was Frances Burke a patient in your private practice of medicine?
She was, yes.
Okay. Do you remember this lady?
I do very, very vividly, yes.
Okay, thank you. What did you list as her cause of death?
The immediate cause of death was an acute intracranial bleed. In other words, she had bleeding into the brain.
Okay, thank you. And
Okay.
what is the date of her death?
Okay, let me look again here. It looks like January 14th, 2018.
Thank you, sir. And what date did you sign this death certificate?
January 16th, 2018.
Okay, thank you. And did you attend her at her death or demise?
No, I did not.
Okay. Why do you feel that this death certificate was incumbent upon you to execute it?
Well, that's a good question. In my experience, if the emergency room doctor doesn't sign the death certificate, or the attending doctor in the hospital doesn't sign the death certificate, they usually go to the primary care physician to see if there is any, if that physician would know any medical reason why this patient might have passed away.
Okay.
If not, I believe it has to go to the coroner.
Okay. Have you reviewed the medical records relating to her last illness and death prior to yesterday?
I did when I signed the death certificate, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Nothing else.
Ross?
Your Honor, a brief moment to set up technologically.
We're going to take our chances with it when we've been using the overhead?
Wait,
Okay.
can I use the overhead to share things with
You can
him?
use the overhead. It's been working. I just don't know if it's going to work on the screen where you can see.
That's what we need.
Well, I understand that. Let's try it. Should put a document up there and I'll ask him if he can see it.
Let me see if I could expedite things, Your Honor. Dr. May, good afternoon. I know you have a doctor's appointment. I'm going to try and get you out of here as soon as possible, okay?
That would be fine.
Are you in Florida yet?
Excuse me?
Are you in Florida yet?
No, I'm home. the sun is out here, but I am in Columbus.
Doctor, do you have those medical records that the state emailed you yesterday that you indicated you reviewed prior to doing Ms. Burke's death certificate? Do you have them on hand?
I printed out the death certificate from the email. There was 198 pages of other records I did not print out.
Okay.
And I reviewed maybe the first 4 or 5 pages, and that was it.
Okay, doctor, we're gonna have to do that, unfortunately.
See if it works.
Let's see. Did you want to try this first?
I guess this is the cord. No?
I don't think I have this.
Because mine's still spinning.
I don't have this capability.
Which cord do we have to plug in, Paul?
The HDMI.
I don't have an issue with it.
We used your laptop the last time we did this.
Yeah, but we did it from here specifically.
Okay, so we're gonna have to do it that way.
Oh, that's something happened here.
I guess this is the problem with Zoom witnesses.
Okay. Which one do you want me to pull up first?
Page 6.
You can assist. We're sending in the first 2. There it goes. It's start, but it's not up there yet.
Oh, it,
There
I
we
can see it.
go.
All right. You've got it. Doctor, can you see this medical record?
I can see part of it, yes.
Okay, and just to clarify, this is a medical record for Ms. Burke, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And it's her discharge summary done by a doctor named Wagner, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now let's scroll down to, okay, right there. Do you see the primary care physician is listed as yourself there, correct?
Correct.
And the active and final diagnosis was compression of the brain, right?
Correct.
And for the hospital course, it says CH&P, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now let's go to page 9, please. For the record, I'm referring to Joint Exhibit 6, pages 6 through 13. Page 9. Okay, perfect. Okay, doctor, do you see here the history and physical that was referenced in the discharge summary?
I see part of it, yes.
Okay. Do you see the portion that lists history of prison illness / brief note?
Yes.
And again, this was done by Dr. Wagner?
That's what it says.
Okay. So, just to clarify, Ms. Burke, per this document, arrived to the hospital with sudden onset right-sided weakness with an altered mental status, which progressed to obstination. Is that accurate based off what Dr. Wagner put in his history and physical?
That's correct.
And she had previously been on Xarelto for pulmonary embolism, correct? Did you get that, Sam? No. Can you repeat your answer? I'm sorry.
That is correct.
Okay. And you know, as her primary care physician, that she had been taking Xarelto for a pulmonary embolism because you had seen her after she had seen you a couple months prior to this for throwing up blood, right?
For what type of blood did you say?
She was having issues where she was vomiting blood a couple months prior to January 14th of 2018, correct?
I don't remember that. We're talking 3 or 4 years ago, and I do not have her chart, but it certainly is possible.
Okay. I want to direct your attention to the sentence that starts with neurosurgery. Do you see that there?
Yes.
Okay. And it indicates here that based off her injury, that neurosurgery was notified but that no interventions were necessary. That's accurate according to this document, correct?
Correct?
And that the family elected to withdraw care due to the severe findings and worsening neurological exam, correct?
That's correct.
Now, let's go to page 23 real quick. Okay. So, I just want to talk to you real quick about how she first appeared at the hospital. Scroll down to where it says Constitution, please. Right there. This is the emergency urgent care note from Ms. Burke when she arrived at the hospital, correct?
Yes.
And it indicates that she arrived at the hospital with agonal respirations and vomitus coming from the mouth. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
So she arrived with a brain injury, struggling to breathe, and vomiting from the mouth. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's go to page 10, please. You see here, doctor, this note by a doctor named Closer on January 13th of 2018?
Yes, Douglas Closser, I would say. Yeah, C-L-O-S-S-E-R. Correct.
Okay, doctor. And this is the day prior, or rather hours prior to her dying, correct?
I'm not sure the exact time of her death, but yes.
Okay. You see there the last two sentences of that paragraph where it states that the proposed shutoff and the patient began to decerebrate posturing. Do you see that?
Yeah, decerebrate posturing, correct.
And decerebrate posturing is when someone involuntarily has an abnormal body posture, correct?
Correct?
The arms and legs stick straight out involuntarily. Correct? The toes point downward.
Correct?
The head and neck are involuntarily but forcefully forced backwards. Correct?
Correct?
The muscles are tight and rigid when this is occurring.
Correct?
So just to bring us up to date, she arrives at the hospital struggling to breathe, vomiting, with a brain injury, and has involuntary posturing forcing her to be in an abnormal position, correct?
Correct?
Okay. None of that would be comfortable, right?
I do not know.
Sustained.
Fortunately, it's never happened to me, and most people...
Stop. There was an objection, I sustained it, you don't have to answer the question.
Okay. Sorry, I did not hear that, sir.
Well, this is one of the problems with Zoom. Relax, you're good.
Okay.
Scroll down to the bottom for impression and plan. Okay, this is the next page.
You said 9.
11. All right. There. This is the next page of that same document, doctor, just to orient ourselves. Do you see where it says under impression and plan?
Yeah, yes, I do.
And it indicates that her brain injury is devastating, correct?
That's what it says, yes.
And it says that she has evidence that the pressure in her brain is increasing and herniating, right?
Correct.
Can you read the next sentence after that, please?
Your Honor,
Sustained.
Does it not state?
again, I'm
Sustained.
And we're just going to read the order.
You're asking, he doesn't have any independent knowledge. You're asking him basically to recite a report that's already into evidence.
Doctor, you were emailed these documents by the state last night, were you not?
Yes, I was.
To prepare for your testimony today, right, doctor?
I was not asked to read the entire package of papers, no.
But you were here to testify as to what you put down as her cause of death, right?
Right, but I did not have these records when I signed the death certificate.
Okay. So that when you signed this death certificate, you were unaware that other doctors had indicated that her brain injury would be fatal even with the most aggressive of care.
That's possible. I may have known that. I can't tell you that. Again, that was about 4 years ago.
Okay, doctor, based off what you did review in the medical records prior to signing your death certificate, you had no reason to believe that anything but this head injury that resulted in her struggling to breathe, having pressure growing in her brain, forcing herself into involuntary abnormal posturing in front of her family, you wouldn't have any reason to believe that anything else caused her death but that condition, correct?
You're asking for an opinion. You're giving a hypothetical circumstances, and you're as to another doctor's care. No.
I'm simply asking you.
No.
Did you have any reason to believe that this condition did not result in her death?
Same.
Sustained.
In your experience, with someone with this type of brain injury, with these types of symptoms, that would be fatal, correct?
Object.
Sustained.
Nothing further.
Redirect.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, doctor, thank you for your time. Good luck with your doctor's appointment. Be safe.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take us down, Paul. Have a good day. Hang up. Thank you, sir. Hey, I'm getting used to it. Ms. Grubb, call your next witness.
Your Honor, we're out of witnesses for the day.
Do we sit and stare at each other for the next hour? No? You want to go home? We had a good day, so we got through a lot of stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get started at 9 in the morning. It's my understanding we're bringing back Dr. Ely.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so the doctor's coming back in to finish up his testimony. If you remember, he had a family issue. So with that, have a great evening. Remember the admonitions. Be safe. David. I'll get him trained. He's only been with me 10-something years. Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, that shut down.
Okay. Ms. Grubb, anything for the record?
Judge, I think we just want to warn everybody that we set aside the whole day for Dr. Ely, wanting to make sure he got done, and with the knowledge that we were breaking a little early tomorrow. Now, Ms. Menashe said that she might not spend all that much time on cross, so we've been scrambling to get other witnesses here, Judge, but no one's stepped up yet. So we want to give everyone a heads up. That's all we have now. If we find someone that's able to come in tomorrow, we're even going into like the family members and stuff, but so far we haven't been able to find anyone that can clear their schedule on such short notice. So we might be breaking very early tomorrow, depending on how things go.
We can't afford too much more of this.
Judge, we're going to ramp it way up here. We ramped it way back because we had the issue of people out in the hall for 2 days at a time. So we're going to try to ramp it that big time next week, so we won't,
Okay.
I hope we don't run into this again.
Mr. Lapita, you're on the floor. Anything further?
There you go.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Ryan.